So the question is, you know, am I overprotective? All right, why don't I take these off? I needed them on because sometimes all of a sudden it's just either I become it's too much information, too stressful, or whatever. I just need those on. All right. Well, I'm gonna first say this. I've experienced loss of friends, to death, and both as a teenager and in the past few years, people I care about who are my age have died, and young people are always at risk. So nobody should pretend that they're not. I think about my second friend who committed suicide, and she was in the honors college at UT. She, unlike me, I don't think she partied ever at all. She probably never drank anything. I mean, she did not go to a church where people drank alcoholic communion. All right, so I mean, what I can wish is that she had had a little bit of that spirit in her, because I think sometimes it helps with resilience, even if some people look down on us. I mean, as though we're supposed to be what? I mean, yeah. All right, I'm just going to talk about hypocritical adults. How about that? Anyone that has a child, if that is a child from them and someone else, that person's had sex. So, I mean, let's cut the bullshit. All right, so, they're just things I think, I mean, I think a kid can probably look at me and see something. Some kids might be afraid of me, some kids might feel comfort. But, yeah. All right. But my question, so I've had concerns about the son of a friend that is possibly coming off, and she'll always be, she'll always be, she will always be, I will always be her friend if she needs a friend. I set limits sometimes. I can be abrupt. I do not have some of her graces, but maybe none of her graces. All right, but she has kids. I'm not going to say those are my kids too, but of course I know what kids can do and what they can get into. So, yeah. So, I was at the kitchen sink pouring out broccoli water, and I do need to run some water because it smells pretty bad, but, uh, just asking myself, am I overprotective? Am I the overprotective one? And I don't know how to think about that. I can't imagine having a child because the world is a lot of bad things happen, and and I'm the oldest of five, and but there are a few reasons, and I don't know that I need to give a list. I mean, that's just not natural to me. you know I mean, sure, I know how it happens, but I don't understand you know how someone lets it happen. How about that? Things like that. All right, so I mean, I know this is still comedy. I don't quite understand the urge. I really don't. But I think I can be described as an auntie. My nieces and nephews, I think most of them were taught to not have respect for me because that's what their brothers saw when we were growing up, and what they've seen since. But as far as young people, younger adults, and I'm that role, and I'm that person who's tries to pay attention. And I woke up this morning just feeling too much responsibility, and having another client who asked if she could, or offered to do a reading, and it's like I think with this about setting boundaries and just I don't know what to say, except I guess I can probably understand why people end up divorced at a certain point, because you have your own life after you have children. I mean, it's family, and it's more than that. But yeah. So, am I the overprotective one? How many of my brothers have I commented on concerns? The one closest to me in age? No. But after his daughter dropped out of college, and you know and got pregnant and decided to have a baby, I would no longer put that little E sound at the end of her name. Now she is enough of an adult, and I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm not sure I ever did that much. But uh, I don't think so. My middle sibling, I expressed some concerns, and he went off on me. But I had expressed concerns directly to one of his children, and she was very disrespectful. All right, and so I have drawn that line. She finds herself in a bad place. Well, I mean, her aunt cautioned her, and she was so disrespectful. And yeah, I do have limits to my sympathy and things like that. All right, yeah, I know they haven't had an easy life, but so yeah, and I mean, I do pick up on things sometimes, and and sometimes, I mean, yeah. So of course I'm very loved, very loved. I don't think I pick up on things unless it's real serious. All right, so second to youngest brother, yeah, because I've had a couple of dreams, and I've told him a thing or two. Each of his sons. I had a dream. I mean, this is so vague, right? I had a dream that the younger son was going to know not to do some things, but not do other things. And I described what I saw in the dream, and his older son. I had a dream where he looked a little bit older, and he looked traumatized, and he's real sensitive. So it looked like they were in a mall or something like that. This is several years ago. Youngest bro, I don't think so. I mean, but yeah, yeah. I try not to be pushy. Just if I have a dream about something and it's concerning, then yeah, I'm going to communicate. I'm going to communicate that if I can, and some people have respect for that and some don't. Uh, and if a kid comes to mind really strong, then I'm not going to ignore that. And with one of the kids, yeah, I communicated to her at some point, and maybe to her father. I communicated. I did communicate directly to her, and I just, I've lived a lot of years, sort of. I'm not as old as plenty of people, but I'm not real young. I'm old enough to be a grandmother, and I have a lot of life experience, and I've experienced a lot of loss. I've seen everything. And so even so, like last night, for a little while, I was anxious, worrying about a child or children being abused, and I just sit here and it's like I have to just stop. I don't know what got that going, but I have to make it stop. And so I just kind of sit, and yeah, but am I the overprotective one? I mean, I'm kind of that way with adults too. If and I tend to be direct. I think so. The person who died in 2022. I had tried to communicate concern to him. I mean, just I said you're important, and I don't know what words I used, but it was basically you need to take good enough care of your health, your physical health, and I'm not real heavy-handed with things like that. I mean, my second husband, the person that probably terminated my contract as a live-in maid. I mean, he he drinks, and what else? I mean, possibly everything else after he left, and that should not be my problem. Alcoholic parents, and it's not my problem. The only problem is that sometimes I dream about him, and could I worry? I mean, I do sometimes worry about his safety because I'm like that. All right, so what is overprotective? When I think about my grandparents' behavior, my mom's parents, when I was a kid, and there were some things, it didn't happen often, but I can think of a time or two where it was like, wow, I mean, it felt really bad. One of those times felt real bad at the time. And the other, it's kind of like, well, I understand it. I really think I can only think of it maybe twice. one of those times there were a couple of things that happened where, and I was like, wow, that is so oppressive. But I do think, they were concerned about safety, and I understand that, I mean, it was the first time that something happened where I felt, like that was real oppressive. I was 12. And wanting to wander wander around a hotel with a girl maybe a year older than me. So yeah. So yeah, when they would not let me leave the room, well, it felt real bad. But now I understand. All right, that was in, yeah, that was out west, and then when I was staying with them, and when I was, uh, in my kind of mid to later 20s, and I went out and did something with one of my first cousins, and came in pretty late. Well, they were still up. They were worried, and my Papa said something to me that wasn't real nice. Well, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. They were worried. There weren't cell phones then. They had no idea where I was. Was I dead? I mean, I don't think they would have thought I would be locked. Locked up. No, dead. Missing. I mean, so I understand. Um, and I'm glad I don't have children because I wouldn't want to be abrupt. Although I am sometimes, but I think about being at someone's house one time. I just think about having a pretty strong connection with young people. Uh, Sometimes you're on the same wavelength, and so you kind of you have some idea. Yeah, that kid's pretty responsible. I don't need to worry too much. I mean, I woke up and I was thinking about these things. I turned on the radio and there was a word that reminded me of the youngest grandson of the person who was here in 2022, and him. I mean, I think he's a lot like me, so I'm not real worried. He likes spiders, he likes skulls, and things like that. He's afraid of his grandfather's pirate room, and I think that's healthy, So I think he knows some limits. I was thinking about him though today, and I'm like, I hope he knows. All right. I mean, the relatedness gets kind of confusing to me, and I don't even think I can like come up with a word, but there's another child around his age. They might fight, and I was thinking, I wonder if they're fighting, and I hope it's not real bad. But anyway, yeah. Am I the overprotective one? What is that? And what are limits? I set some pretty firm boundaries with my client who offered to do a reading, and that's happened before. It's like, no, please. I mean, that it's when someone doesn't understand. I mean, that tends to bother me, and it didn't happen a lot of times, but no. And I didn't even respond to that. It's just no, but she is very badly abused. Her parents are extremely abusive. She needs responsible adults, reliable adults, and I have to be that. But I didn't want children. I didn't want children. So, but her life matters, and she's going through hell. So I have to be here. I have to protect whatever stress there is on my health, and how can I do that? I mean, it's hard. I don't know what to say. Big sis here. It's summer, and I mean, there's swimming pools, and I mean, and if that can be sort of a metaphor for other things too, I mean, then yeah, I just thought I'd talk for a few minutes, and yeah, I was really depressed 2 days ago, real bad, and then yesterday I had some of that too, and today not enough sleep, and then woke up today, and it's like I have to set limits. I don't want children, and a man can say that, and people don't jump all over a man that says that. I care about children, absolutely, but I have to find ways to set limits. But yeah, it's that time of year. I think about that video of the kids in the grocery store parking lot maybe 2 summers ago with, I mean, sixth, seventh grade age, and I can laugh about it because it's so overwhelming, and but not funny, and hopefully they've grown out of it. But that's something to think about this time of year too. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Tell me, am I overprotective or I don't know.